All right, it is 6:30 p.m. and the Urban Design Commission meeting for March 11th, 2015 is called to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Sawhill.
Here.
Ms. Emerton.
Here.
Mr. Winchester.
Here.
Ms. Ream. Here. Mr. Condon.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Leonetti and Ms. Sullivan have been excused. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a change in agenda for this evening. We are going to be moving the review of art and the annual election of officers to the end of the meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for this evening? All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Ream, a second from Commissioner Winchester. Do we have any discussion or objection? All right, those minutes are passed. Do we have any disclosures for this evening? Commissioner Miller.
Yes, in the case of, let's see, 2014-223, the Airport Heights Elementary School, I was not present for the initial meeting, so I'm going to abstain from that.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sawhill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In case 2015-005, the resolution for approval for the East High project, I wasn't here for that meeting, and I'll be abstaining from that motion.
Thank you. Do you have any additional disclosures for this evening? Okay. So moving on, we are now on to the consent agenda. Where are you going to pull from? We need a motion to pull case 2014-0223 to the regular agenda. So we have a motion from Commissioner Winchester. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Commissioner Sawhill.
That's okay, he did it.
Do we have any objection? Okay. The case is now pulled to the regular agenda. Can I get a motion for approval for the remaining item on the consent agenda? Oh. Did you motion to approve it? Oh, you did it. Okay. Okay. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner Winchester, second from Commissioner Sullivan. Any objection? Okay. Consent agenda is approved. So that'll bring us to the regular agenda for this evening. And at this point in the meeting, I am going to read the appeal policy. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes, except Commission recommendations to the Assembly, which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the Clerk's office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the Commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. And an individual may request written findings from any Commission decision within 7 days. So at this time, we are going to hear the case that was pulled from the consent agenda, so case 2014-0223. Sharon, are you going to do you have a staff report on this one since it was?
No, I don't. Okay. And I was just going to say that the one of the petitioner's representative, Kevin Denier, contacted me today, and he requested that his case be pulled off the agenda because he did want to discuss one of the conditions with the Commission.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions for staff on that? Okay. Is the petitioner here? Hi.
My name is Kevin Denier. Last name is spelled D-O-N-I-E-R-E. I'm representing the ASD and wanted to address one of the conditions for the Airport Heights Elementary School project. It is condition number 3. It notes to provide additional parking space based on the floor space of the multipurpose room and the adjacent gym, and if needed, obtain a non-conforming determination or parking variance. We've developed a short outline that I can hand over to you, which is the basis of our argument for why we feel that that the staff. Well, I just like to note that the staff, MOA staff, believes that the area of both the gym and the multipurpose room should be used to calculate the required parking number of parking spaces on the site, which is not what is in Title 21 currently. Old Title 21 is which this is going towards. In old Title 21, it notes one parking space for 50 square feet of the multipurpose room. If that were required, at the last meeting, we actually talked. It was Commissioner Sullivan who mentioned combining the portion of the gym with the multipurpose room, and she noted our calculation would stay the same in terms of the 72 parking spaces would be the same. Again, we're not exceeding the existing Title 21. Actually, we have, with our multipurpose room, the square footage is 2,196 square feet, and that includes the stage platform area. And so that would require 44 spaces. Again, we're showing 72. Per our last UDC meeting, the Commissioner Sullivan noted that we should combine the gym, portions of the gym and the multipurpose room, and not the stage or the platform. And so we calculated that in Exhibit A in the packet as 3,450 square feet. Divided by that 50 square feet gives us 69 required parking spaces. And again, we're showing 72 of those 72 parking spaces on site. The staff comments mention extending that calculation based on, our understanding was, a performance or some sort of assembly in the multipurpose room and the gym. There's collapsible doors between the gym and the multipurpose room. That Exhibit A shows the area, we believe, as area you could be at an assembly and viewing the stage. And that is the number that we've calculated for the square footage of the gym with the multipurpose room of 3,450 square feet. The NPR and the gym meet the ASD's ed spec standards, and it's not at a greater capacity than any other ASD school. Currently, ASD has 32, or currently Airport Heights has 32 spaces on site. Again, we're increasing that to 72. There are other schools that have allowed the combining of the NPR and the gym and have required, based on the NPR calculation in the old Title 21, of one space per 50 square feet. Two of those examples are Chester Valley Elementary School, which is under Title 21 in 2009. It combined similar configuration linking the NPR with the platform and gym. Despite their combined spaces being slightly larger than Airport Heights, that project was approved by staff and UDC and permitted at 54 spaces based on that one space per 50 square feet. Wonder Park is another one that was approved by the municipality. The area of the NPR was used in the required parking calculation, even though the NPR and gym are connected. The NPR area for that school specifically was 2,391 square feet, and which would require 48 spaces. And in that project, they actually reduced the amount of parking spaces from 117 down to 101 based on the fact that they were calculating that NPR as square footage as the required parking. This project is currently out to bid, and changing the parking layout at this point would have a significant impact on the cost and the schedule. It's been through 10 or 12 Building Design Commission and community meetings. The number that we've been looking at for the amount of parking spaces required for the staff as well as teachers was around that 70 mark, and we're providing 72 spaces. One of the main things that the neighborhood was interested in keeping was on the southwest side of the school, was the existing mature birch trees in that area. It's used actually by the science teachers to go out for, I think they collect the sap for making birch syrup. And I want to just show, if I can, on the Elmo what that area would look like. It's difficult to see, but for the requirement, by adding the MPR along with the gym, it would require 97 parking spaces. The 72 parking spaces that we have are 27 in this area. There's 10 along the southeast side, 13 on the northeast, and then 22 on the northwest. And to add in 25 more, we'd have to take an area where all those existing birch are that we'd like to preserve based on, again, the feedback that we've gotten from the neighborhood as well as the building design committee. So we would urge the commission to approve this plan the way it is by striking that third condition of approval. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. And there is something I actually should have said before I let you get totally started, because we have somebody sitting out. You actually had a short board with us. There's only
Yes.
going to be 5, so
Okay.
it'll have to be unanimous for any changes we have, like, that would need to be made.
Okay.
Are you okay with going forward? If not, we can.
We need to at this point.
Okay. I apologize. I should have said that before I let you get started. Are there any questions for the petitioner? Commissioner Sawhill?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Initially, my question is for staff. Ms. Ferguson?
Yes.
The requirement for, or the disagreement on parking and how it should be calculated, are there comments in here that I missed from a department?
No, there are no other comments. This is from any other agency. The planning department determined this. Kevin and I have spoken about it, and Kevin has spoken with Erica McConnell as well about this. And she's of the opinion that they need to provide the parking. If they can't, then they can seek a non-conforming determination or seek a parking variance.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my comment for the applicant is, this is a little confusing. And, you know, we show up with a consent agenda item, and then we have a big decision to make based on some very detailed verbiage in the code describing,
Yes.
you know, the difference. And I'm feeling
It was a surprise to me as well, because I guess our understanding from our last meeting was that if we did combine portions of the gym with MPR and remove the stage, we would have the calculation correct from what our drawings already showed. So when I, resubmitted the packet and found out that it wasn't correct, or I needed to add more of the gym, then we needed to put our facts together as well.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it would have been nice to get a written brief, I guess, on the disagreement and have some time to digest it before we made this decision.
We do have, we can pass that out if we want to, if you want to take time to digest that now, or, we can talk about it after you've looked at it. We have copies of this letter that Michael Carlson, who's the principal architect, has developed, and it outlines bullet format our argument for why we should strike that condition number 3.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Sharon, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I do. One, as I recall, Commissioner Sullivan had said that it really wasn't straightforward in what they had shown in the concept review to only count the MPR room, that they really needed to count the gym as well. So that was the instruction, to the school district on that one. And then also, the code does allow, and just been pointed up, that there is a possibility if you're zoned PLI in the code that it says this: unless the number of required parking spaces shall be that specified in section 2145080, which is off-site parking requirements, unless it is demonstrated to the administrative official and the traffic engineer that the patrons and employees of a land use will generate a lower parking demand than anticipated by the supplementary district regulations, which is the parking section again. The burden of proof and demonstration of the lower parking demand lie with the property owner, and blah, 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 blah. So essentially what it says, they can go to the traffic engineer and try and convince the traffic engineer that their demand is not so great, that they need these additional parking spaces. So that is a third option for the school district to pursue.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester, did you have some questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, again, I'm a little confused. So I'm trying to get a good grip on this, and I'm trying to, read this letter really quickly. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. Originally you submitted the platform and the multipurpose room, and Commissioner Sullivan said, "Gee, you've got to, add the space that's in the gym to this."
Yes.
But I think you might still be okay. But you really got to show that. When you do add all of these spaces together, how many, I'm still trying to find out, how many parking spaces does the code say you should have?
So the code says if we add those two, multipurpose room and the gym together, we would be required 97 spaces.
97 spaces, okay?
So right now we're showing 72 on our site plan, and that's the graphic I was trying to demonstrate, that we would have to add 25.
Yeah, I got the 25. I just wasn't even sure how much that was on. I was trying to get all the numbers in my head in 3 seconds. So you're basically saying that that's the addition of 25 spaces above the 72, which gets you to 97. That's what you'd have to do to get there.
Correct.
And okay.
And I'm trying to show the impact on the landscape as well.
Understood. I got that part too. So the second question I have is, has there been any analysis done of how many people, here we're dealing with this as a commission really difficultly, and I also say to Mr. Sawhill, this is like, oh, wow. As far as the community or the local people that are served by this school that are going to walk to this school for a public function, because obviously what we're talking about is a community gathering of open school night or some other kind of event. It's not the everydays that we're talking about this parking. And then the impact of whatever parking isn't provided on site on the surrounding community, and whether that sort of, fills up all the streets and parking spaces for 4 blocks, or, and how have we impacted that? Was there any study done on that? Do we have something that, did you guys look at, 50% of the school, parents are just going to walk to an open school night?
Yeah, well, we have in, I guess, this packet and the past packet, we talked a lot about how many students, the percentage of students that were walking. I'm not sure about events, but we do know, through our, working with the building design committee, the neighborhood, that the parking on the street was pretty crazy in terms of there was new medians put in at 16th, and parents were parking in between medians and parking on the sides of the street. And so we've created these parking lots on site off of the street to help alleviate that.
And you're gone for how many parking spaces previously on site?
There was 32.
32 to 72. So you're increasing by 40. Again, I'm just trying to get a sense of the situation, because having attended numerous elementary school events of my grandchildren lately, you do get a couple hundred people showing up for these events, as you might understand.
Right.
We all do. And so this is where I think the municipal regulations and really pushing for the maximum number with the multipurpose room. Because if you've got 400 students at this school, you're going to get 200 parents showing up for an event, open house or a
Yes.
Christmas event or whatever.
We're trying to meet the letter of the code right now, and I don't think we want to, and I don't think the new Title 21 either is trying to max out or do the Christmas time Walmart shopping parking lot. We're just trying to meet the code and provide for what's really needed, which seems to be that, at least when we talked with the building design committee in terms of their, the staff and the teachers, how many teachers there are, how many staff there are, providing enough parking spaces for them as well as for parents coming to drop off or to volunteer.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
I'm Michael Carlson with McCool Carlson Green. I'm the principal architect on the project. And one of the things that's really great about this school is that it really has a very nice neighborhood with lots of on-street parking, and there are no busy streets that need to be crossed, no arterials that need to be crossed by the kids. So we've got a neighborhood that really can absorb quite a bit of parking. And as Kevin said, we certainly don't want to build our schools with parking lots that would accommodate the Christmas event because that would be kind of wasteful and particularly on a small site. And so I think our perspective is that Title 21 language is pretty clear to us. The size of the multipurpose room divided by 50. We did this extra study at the request of the Commissioner Sullivan to look at, well, in a performance event, what would be the square footage that would be handled by seating. We did that, and we're also netted 69 spaces, so we still have enough to accommodate that. The staff comment was, well, there are other events except for assembly events that might drive occupancy. But in our experience, they didn't speculate on what those events would be, and in our experience, those assembly events are the peak parking times. So we think we've, number one, met the letter of Title 21, the very specific language that's in there, and we've also gone the extra mile to show that even in combined spaces, we're meeting Title 21 with an assembly space. So we think it's kind of an unnecessary, not only an unnecessary exercise, but it would be very unfortunate for the neighborhood to lose that playground space, the trees, the educational space to parking. So.
Thank you. Just one other comment. As you would understand, our situation is we're being asked to sort of, adjudicate this situation in between what, is Title 21 and what is sort of perceived. And you all already know, by virtue of the way we discussed this, or Monica did before, Ms. Sullivan, is that your multipurpose room really that's labeled on the drawings isn't all, you're not going to use that. If you're doing something on the platform, you're going to use the gym as a space to view that platform. So it was what you've described here as the multipurpose space, and the yellow is more true to what you're actually going to use as multipurpose space. I think that was her point.
Right.
Was you?
And we don't dispute that, but
Right.
the precedent's been set many, many times before. In 2014 and 2010, this interpretation's never been, as far as I know, never actually come up. If it's come up, it's never been enforced. So it seems as if it would seem improper to kind of change that interpretation that really has a lot of precedence, particularly when we're right on the verge of transitioning to a new Title 21 that's going to have a whole another set of rules. So.
Thank you.
Ms. Ferguson, did you have?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind the Commission that the Commission really doesn't have the authority to depart from the code. And so those three options have been presented to the Commission and to the petitioner. And that's pretty much the end of the story on that one.
But we kind of dispute the fact that we're not complying with the code. We think the code's very clear, the language there, and that we comply with it. It's this extension of interpretation that staff has that we think goes beyond what the code actually says.
Are there any additional questions? I think we've talked about this before. There's a few things we could do as a commission. One is we can take a little break and read the paperwork we've been handed if people want to try to get through this tonight. Or if we want, I don't know if we want to push this to next meeting. I know that's of the, you guys would like to move forward one way or the other.
The project is out to bid right now, and bids are going to be received this week, Mary? Next week.
Okay. So the time is of the essence.
So, well, the impacts well, certainly time is of the essence, but that's another thing that you should consider is the fact that the project has moved along in good faith. We're out to bid, and changes right now would have some significant schedule and time impacts.
So is there any other opinion on the commission this evening, how you guys are feeling? Do you want to take a break and try to read through this and come back, or any input I would take? Or do we want to just move forward and vote? Or no? Commissioner Sawhill?
Madam Chair, I'm struggling with this one, and I think on one hand, Ms. Ferguson has a very good point. We don't have authority to waive parking. That's really outside the purview of what this board has authority to do. But at the same time, if there's a dispute and interpretation of the code, I think we are an appropriate body to hear that and make a decision. But as our rules say, late public hearing submittal policy, we discourage people coming in and laying things on the table and ask us to scramble and make a decision based on them. I'm not sure I would call this, a large amount of material laid on the table, but it's confusing. And, I deal with parking all the time, and I'm confused here. And I'm having a hard time grasping the differences between staff's interpretation and your interpretation. So, I'm leaning towards postponing and, allowing the petitioner to make his best shot and come back next week and make a decision. If we're forced into a decision tonight, I don't see changing condition number 3. So that's kind of my thoughts at the moment, and I would love to hear some other commissioner thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Sawhill. What I see in a simplified version, and maybe I'm incorrect, so correct me, is this yellow area that 3,450 square feet is what you've calculated the 72 spaces on. If we are to use the interpretation of the staff, they would have included these 2 triangles on the sides of the multipurpose of the gymnasium as areas that could be occupied as part of that 1 per 50, which essentially increased the square footage of the combined multipurpose and gym to have you create, or required to have another 25 spaces. Is that?
That's correct.
Put it like that's what it is? Okay.
Yes.
So it really becomes an interpretation of assembly area and whether the multipurpose and the gym are all going to be occupied completely, 100% of the square footage has to be used in the calculation of the maximum parking for an event. Is that safe to say what we're up against?
That's what we're talking about, yes.
Okay. And you're proposing that we use only this yellow area, 3,450 square feet, because that's the major viewing area of the platform, which is what...
That's what my understanding from our last commission meeting where Commissioner Sullivan interpreted what we should do with the MPR and the gym.
Yeah, because at that point, you were only using the triangle of the multipurpose room as the area for viewing. I mean, it wasn't, we didn't have this big area. You only had I don't think you had 72 spaces required.
No. That's
so
correct.
What she was doing was correcting and saying, wait a minute, if you have a platform presentation, you're going to be able to occupy more space than what was shown.
Yes, so that was my understanding. We got rid of the stage in our calculation.
Right.
So then that brought down the multipurpose room to even a smaller size. And then we added area which we thought made sense for an assembly so that you could actually see the stage from the gym. If we calculate those other spaces, then you're not really a part of the assembly or not seeing the stage is what we had interpreted from.
So let me ask you another question. Is there, the opening between the multipurpose room and the gym, is that open all the time?
No.
So that's a potentially closed off. So when that's closed, you have the gym and the multipurpose area.
Separate. They could be separate.
So when you if you close that door, do you have in the gym itself, just the gym, you're going to have an activity in the gym, how many parking spaces are required?
I think it's 3,360 square feet in the,
So it's less than the 3,450?
yes,
Okay, so it's still less than the 72 required?
yes. Yep.
Okay. So what we're saying is from a purely functional aspect of the building, you shut the door between this quasi-multipurpose stage area and the gym, and you have a function in the gym, you require 72 spaces technically. If you open it up and you have viewing area of the stage, you require roughly 72 spaces as well.
That's correct.
I see. Okay. These are clarifications in my mind of trying to, understand how you came to the situation of where we are. And certainly, when we approved this before, and of course I was at the meeting and I remember Commissioner Sullivan stating that, we didn't think there was really ever any issue that you had enough parking spaces. And I guess that's the part that we missed. And I guess the question is, did this issue come up before we did our preliminary approval? I mean, in other words, when we preliminarily approved this project, parking was not necessarily an issue. You had plenty, you just needed to, make it a little more realistic in how you presented it.
That's correct.
So when did this issue of not enough parking, I mean, you're bidding a project that by Title 21 supposedly doesn't have enough parking. How did that come about now?
MOA
Between
staff,
our last approval and now?
yes.
Okay.
MOA staff called and said, we need to include every part of the gym. And so that's when I recalculated it, and we had to have 97 as opposed to the 72.
So that's why Mr. Sawhill and I and others that were here at that meeting are so confused, because we thought all of that stuff was resolved at
Yes.
we shouldn't be bringing this up at a final approval, is my
Correct.
point.
Yes, that's my point as well. I mean, at the last minute.
I mean, we shouldn't be dealing with this.
We
That
shouldn't
should
be,
have been
because
up-
my understanding from the last meeting was just like you explained.
Okay. So parking has never been an issue up until just before this meeting?
That is correct.
That was, mid-February they called you, Kevin, or when did we find out? And towards the end
I'm
of
just trying to get a
Yeah.
sense of how we got into this predicament that we're now stuck with, that we approve a project, we think it's okay, we go through all this stuff, and now all of a sudden here we are at final, and we're being placed under a,
But I think it's along the same good nature that Commissioner Sullivan had when her intention or her thoughts were that, okay, those doors open, there will be some people in there, but it's related to the assembly, and that was our interpretation as well. And when she said, we think there's no issue with what your parking has now, so then, we just said, okay, we need to show that and show what we heard at the last meeting. So that's what, I don't think we're putting you in a tight spot. We're just trying to explain where we are now.
You are. I'm saying the circumstances have.
Yes.
Okay. Certainly, I'm not particularly saying you did this or invented this. The circumstances have put us in this position because, like I said, we approved it and then said, make sure you include the space that could be viewed from the stage so that we have a more realistic view of that assembly requirement. And, okay. I share Mr. Sawhill's, just as a comment to the board, I share Mr. Sawhill's concern, and it may be difficult for us to make a decision tonight in a unanimous fashion, which is what we would have to do in order to pass this tonight. And I'm pretty comfortable personally with the solution that's been developed. And I will say that mainly for two reasons. One, I think that they have accommodated the amount of space that's normally associated with a multipurpose space in an elementary school, and I've designed several, so I kind of believe they're right on track. Your explanation of the local neighborhood, and the parking that's in the street is normal to an elementary school. You know, on the big Christmas event, you got people parking all up and down the streets. And I think this perfectly, if Ms. Sullivan was here, would actually say, yeah, that's what I was looking for, was for you to show it this way and bring it forward. I was very clear with that. So I would be willing to support a direction to approve this based on the fact that the interpretation that was made previously and an interpretation that we understood that this was at, and that there's been sort of there's been a reinterpretation of, oh, gee, what about this, what about that? But we have a project that we gave approval to that the parking wasn't really even brought up or an issue because it was covered. And even we thought it was, when we did some preliminary calculations, it was covered even, as you're showing here, number yellow, you had plenty of parking to cover that kind of an event. We just wanted you to show it. So I would be inclined to support it, but I don't want to put the project in, you know, that kind of position if the board would rather postpone this and wait till we have a larger board or other folks. So I'll yield to the rest of the board.
Ms. Ferguson, did you have more to add?
Yes, I did. 2 points. One is a little bit clear on the history of this. It first came up at the preliminary meeting when Commissioner Sullivan had said to Kevin, you really ought to include the gym in this because it's really a more honest assessment of how the spaces are really used in reality. They're using both spaces, and that's why schools are designed this way with folding doors in between the two spaces, because they do use the two spaces together. And then when Kevin submitted, and I saw that yellow area, I went to Erica McConnell. I said, they're only showing this, the yellow area, not the whole space. And Kevin is saying he's not including the whole gym space because when the doors are folded and they were holding an assembly event and looking towards the stage, nobody could see the stage from that area. And then we discussed it further, and she says, yes, but really, you know, people, they have all kinds of events, not just events that are focused on the stage. They hold all sorts of things there. So really, they do need to count all that space. And so that was discussed with Kevin, and then sort of we are in the situation where we are. And the second point I wanted to say is that we also discussed the possibility of them putting a permanent wall in between the two spaces. We didn't want to see the school have to do that, but that is another option that they could pursue. So that they would only have to count, you know, so it would, if they had to, you know, use fewer parking spaces, that was yet another option. Not a good one, but another option for them.
Commissioner Condon, do you have any feedback?
Yes, Madam Chair. Given the complexity and the nuances of this situation, I don't feel in a position to definitively make a call on this because it's so interpretive that I would need to review, you know, your latest document here, go back over the Title 21, and try and get to the bottom of exactly where the numbers are coming from and what they're based on. I'm not a big fan of excessive parking lots, and you know, my sort of off-the-cuff estimation is that you know, enough parking places are provided for a typical day in the life of this school. And I do understand staff's point that, you know, we can't contravene the municipal code, but I don't think it's clear enough in anybody's mind just exactly what that number should be. And if we are in the position of having to be the mediators in this issue, then we're going to need more time to review the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Winchester, did you have more to add?
I just had one other question. As far as the Title 21 and what the requirements for parking is it based on the multipurpose room square footage? Is that, I don't remember the code, and I'm trying to look it up here.
That is correct, and the multipurpose room is generally understood as the space that houses the stage within the school. And so your typical school, that's the smaller of the two large activity spaces. The gyms are usually programmed around 3,000 to 3,500 square feet. The multipurpose room is usually programmed between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet. So historically, the multipurpose room has had the stage, and it's been in the range of 2,500 square feet, and that's what we based our parking calculations on all the previous school work that we've done.
Right. And I guess that's what I'm trying to, in other words, basically you have a situation here where typically the platform stage would either be at the side of the gym, and so the gym is whatever it is, 2,500, 3,000 square feet, you base the parking on that, or it's the multipurpose room that's 2,500 square feet with a stage on the end of it, and it becomes based on that square footage. And it is not based, and here's the question, it's not based on the combined square footage of the gym and multipurpose room, is that correct?
I've never seen it interpreted that way in any previous project, and neither has Anchorage School District, and they've got more broader experience than we do.
I never have either. And that's, I guess, where I'm going here with this question or this line of thinking is you have combined some portion of the multipurpose room with a portion of the gym in the way that you've set up this large opening and viewing of the stage, but that the general rule for an elementary school is 2,500 to 3,000 square foot space, of which you're calculating a 3,450 square foot space for parking, which is about 450 square feet, normally larger than just the gym. Like you said, your gym here is only about 3,100, 3,200 square feet?
3,360.
So if we did again, the calculation is either or, but not necessarily both.
Correct.
And that's where I'm trying to go with some of my logic here for actually be willing to say this looks reasonable for an elementary school in Anchorage of the 20 or 30 I've been involved in or assessed or dealt with.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Jerry, it usually depends on where the stage is. It's not the label that's on the plan.
Right.
It's where the performance space,
Right.
where the stage is, where is the large performance venue going to happen.
Thank you. Just wanted to have that kind of clarification.
Commissioner Condon?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Question for staff. Now, if you say, if there's a solid wall between these two spaces, then their parking calculation is correct.
Yes, it would be, because it would just be the multipurpose room, which is a much smaller room.
Okay, well, I guess it devolves around this issue of what's a wall. We've got a wall, right? It's a type of wall. It's a wall that happens to be retractable, but it is a wall. And, under these conditions, I would say, it's, in terms of interpreting the issue, I think that maybe it's the interpretation of what a wall is. And because this is foldable, I would say that it qualifies as a wall and that their calculations are correct. Thank you.
So I don't know if we have any more questions or discussion along this matter, but we are still at the point where you have 5 of us, and we all have to agree, or we can postpone. And Commissioner Ream, you haven't weighed in. Am I going to put you on the spot? Do you have, where do you feel comfortable?
I'm just trying to discover where it says NPR specifically in the code. That's my issue. I'm seeing in the off-street parking section of the code that it references auditoriums, places of public assembly. Is that where we're looking?
It's under, if you look under Title 21, under parking, the parking section, I think it's 2145080. And then it'll talk about the different uses in our zoning districts, and one will be schools, and it will say elementary, and it will say 1 parking space required per every 50 square foot of area in the multipurpose room.
And it specifically speaks to the multipurpose.
Yes, it says multipurpose room, square footage of the floor area. It says specifically 1 parking space for every 50 square feet of floor area in the multipurpose room.
Well, to implicate, no, I think they've done I agree with Mr. Winchester that in the beginning this was not set as a condition of approval. This was a request by Monica or Ms. Sullivan to demonstrate that the combined area was still meeting the code. But the way that it's written in Title 21 speaks to the multi-purpose room. And there is a dividable wall between the multi-purpose room and the gym. And not only that, but they have included a significant area of the gym in the calculation.
And that was based on Commissioner Sullivan's interpretation of when that wall goes away, there'll still be some people in the gym able to see the stage.
And so my inclination is that of Mr. Winchester and is to support this, but I guess that's my weighing in.
So I think we are at the point where I don't know if anybody's feeling strongly that they want this delayed. Is that a fair statement? I know, because you were saying, would you, I'm going to keep putting you guys on the spot. I'm sorry.
I don't know that we're asking anything unreasonable. It's maybe just not as clear without having this before, having the time to look at it.
Wanting to make sure we're.
And that's what we had tried to show in our submittal initially. This final submittal was, here's the area that we had heard from Commissioner Sullivan as to be included in there, which would match what was required for our parking.
Commissioner Sawhill.
Well, after I make my statement or share my current feelings with the board, I would appreciate the chair to share her current feelings. I hate to see someone lose an issue 4-1 with a short board. That really stinks. And you've convinced a majority of the people, and you've not convinced one person, and it doesn't go forward. At this point, I'm unconvinced, and would suggest to the applicant that they seek a postponement and bring this up next month when there's more people here. I have, on occasion, eaten my vote just to see a project go forward. So if I can get some additional discussion from other board members, I can see which way this is going and make a decision.
So my opinion, since I haven't shared it yet, is that I tend to agree with Commissioner Winchester, Commissioner Condon, and Commissioner Ream that there is a wall. You have met the meeting of the code because the code says the multi-purpose room. So that is where I sit. So yes, for my opinion, that's my opinion. He can't. Yeah. Commissioner Miller's, yeah. Yeah. And Ms. Ferguson, do you have more to share with us?
Yeah, just one thing. I would be willing, to write up something to maybe clarify this better, but I don't know what, I've been thinking what more I could do. It's really, they have those 4 options that we've talked about tonight. I would say if the commission wanted to postpone the meeting to the fourth Wednesday of this month, 2 weeks away. There's an option we could meet again rather than wait, 4 weeks, because we do have the room reserved the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. I don't know what your all availability is, but we could poll the commissioners tomorrow, and if that's it all, if those 2 weeks would matter to the petitioner or not, I would suggest in the 2 weeks they might go and touch base with the traffic engineer and see if they would grant a variance. That if I were in their shoes, I would think that would be the likeliest scenario that they might get. And then I can talk to Erica again about the multi-purpose room, to see what her thoughts on it, and all of us could get together and discuss it as well, with others in our building to see, what their interpretation is. But that's about all I have to offer.
Thank you.
I feel, and I think we feel, that the board has the purview to make this decision. There was an interpretation created by Commissioner Sullivan. We thought in our proposal, or our submittal for the final approval, that we were showing that, or representing that in the way that she was interpreting it. And so we had felt all along that we were meeting the letter of the code and her comment, the comment of including those for that assembly space. So again, I feel like I don't think it's a unreasonable request for the board to make this decision, and it was approved initially, and I think the kind of the basis of our argument shows that we've done our homework. We're not trying to do anything unreasonable in terms of low amount of parking. We have what we think is reasonable for the school, and so we would like to see a decision tonight.
It does. Commissioner Sawhill.
Madam Chair, why don't we go forward tonight and take a vote?
Okay. So we will need a motion for approval on case 2014-0223. We have a motion from Commissioner Condon and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Condon, would you please state your motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve case 2014-0223, Airport Heights Elementary School. I believe that it has been pointed out that this meets the Anchorage 2020 policies 4478.
Commissioner Condon, at this point, I just want you to state your motion, and then we do findings after.
Yeah. Okay.
So at
yes,
this point,
I'd
just state your motion, and then
like
we'll...
to
And
move
the
to
conditions?
In the conditions, if there are conditions.
move to approve this case with conditions 1, 2, and 4, and the removal of condition 3.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve case 2014-0223, subject to staff conditions 1, 2, and 4, removal of 3. We have a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Condon, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe that the project meets the 2020 plan policies 4478 and 88. I believe this project should move forward, and that problems associated with interpretation on the number of parking spaces has been resolved adequately, in my opinion, to allow the petitioner to move forward with the given 72 spaces provided.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting the motion. I also believe that the parking spaces are adequate for the 3,450 square feet of multipurpose and or combined portions of the gymnasium that would be considered part of the multipurpose use in terms of a viewing of the stage, and that was the intent of Title 21, is that if you have a stage production, what is the size of the multipurpose room that views the stage? And this particular design, the multipurpose room, as labeled, is a small space with an opening door or wall that will partition it off from the gymnasium. And therefore, when they open that up, they will allow some additional viewing space, but that still does not exceed the 72 spaces required. In addition, when the wall is closed, we have a gymnasium that is also under the square footage required for 72 square parking spaces. So I think we're meeting the intent of Title 21 in a way that it is written regarding schools' multipurpose rooms for elementary schools and community neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional discussion? I guess I would also like to add some discussion. I do intend to support the motion, and I would like to point out that this is supported along the fact that we believe this meets Title 21, as Title 21 writes for the multi-purpose room is the square footage you're supposed to base it on, and the fact that there's also been the precedent set from Chester Valley Elementary and Wonder Park Elementary as findings to support this decision. Do we have any additional discussion? Can everybody please vote on the motion? That motion has passed.
Thank you.
All right. Now we are moving on to case 2014-0224. Is there a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Anchorage School District requests approval to modify the Rabbit Creek Elementary School Public Facility Site Plan and Landscape Plan. The school district is seeking final approval for their plans. This is a final approval. The overall cost of the project is about $9.5 million, of which about $1.25 million is for site improvements. A review of the standards of approval, they're all met. The department's recommending approval of this final site plan and landscape plan, subject to conditions 1 through 5 on pages 4 and 5 of the packet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? All right. And the petitioner, please? Oh, just kidding. Commissioner Condon?
Sorry. The landscape screening between the highway and the school, it's somehow been grandfathered in as not applicable to this case, and this has all been decided by others, and that is not open for discussion, correct?
That's correct. Non-conforming characteristics of use are not lost when you do upgrades to the property, and that's found in, I get confused between old code and new code, but Chapter 12, new code, and non-conforming section. In old code, it's 55, I think, Chapter 55.
So does this mean that in perpetuity there will never be landscape screening between the highway and the school?
I think in the new code, there's a section that talks about 10%. The new code, there's something that addresses that, but in old, our office doesn't make the determinations on nonconforming rights. That's the land use review section, and well, I could take a look and see characteristics of use sustain, I believe, but some of the other nonconforming rights you lose them at 50% of the value of the structure is altered or something like that. But that's not true for characteristics of use, and it's something special about that section. It's like parking, landscaping. Some of these things are characteristics of use. They have grandfather rights currently.
So in the future, there could be some screening that's put in there, correct?
Well, the space is there, and future projects. I mean, I think that this project is aimed at lengthening the life of the building, as opposed to because the school district doesn't really have the funding to take each one of these schools and rebuild them anew. But yeah, I mean, there's you asked a good question. I can't answer on the spot.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions for staff? All right. Can the petitioner please come forward? And if you could please state and spell your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Juan Lee. I'm with R&M Consultants. My last name is spelled L-E. And I'm here representing the Anchorage School District with Charlie Peters as the project manager. I also have the rest of my project team with me, BDS Architecture, principal architect on the project. I've got R&M project engineers Don Porter and Nicole Knox, as well as Taryn Olson from R&M Consultants. So thank you for having us here tonight, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So what we have before you is a proposal to amend an approved de facto site plan for the Rabbit Creek Elementary School in South Anchorage. And this is what the Anchorage School District calls a building life extension project, which will improve the facility so that it will have at least a minimum 10-year of continued service. The school district, in working with the elementary school, the committee, and the project team, we're charged with improving interior sections of the school, bring it up to code, improve the thermal envelope of the school, and improve the energy use through several different building types of improvements. In addition to that, they were also charged with improving the congested circulation issues on site. Right now, the current situation is that the staff parking lot is inadequate. There's a lot of double parking and blocking of staff and volunteer parking. The main entrance of the school is not off the main driveway into the school. It becomes very congested during morning drop-off and afternoon pickup. There is inadequate number of parking spots, as well as parents dropping off their kids are required to go one way out onto Brayton Drive, which is the frontage road for the Seward Highway. It creates a lot of out-of-direction travel if parents need to get back up onto DeArmond or go east towards their homes, for example. So in improving the site, the on-site circulation, this project is making a few proposed improvements, including relocating the visitor parking lot and student drop-off, relocating the staff parking lot, basically swapping the two for the improved circulation, as well as the bus drop-off to where the current staff parking is. Because of these improvements, we have to relocate the sledding hill, and relocating the sledding hill to the field where the soccer and the baseball diamond are actually going to increase the play area for the school. It'll provide teachers with a better, sight and view of that sledding hill. The runoff area is going to be improved for students as well. And then there's also going to be improvements to the special needs play area that's at the back of the school next to the adjacent play field. In addition, the project is going to bring up ADA requirements that are necessary to make the school site ADA compliant. We are proposing a lot more additional landscaping, exceeding code actually, which will give the school a better, look and feel for the improved entrance into the school. If you have any questions. And I want to add one thing. Since we submitted the application to planning and to the commission for review, we've reassessed the visitor parking lot, the proposed visitor parking lot. Currently, we have perpendicular parking And we would like to make a minor modification to what we're proposing for the design to change it to angled parking. We feel that after reassessing that parking, that it will provide better ingress, egress out of that visitor parking spot. It will result in a reduction of 3 parking spots and 1 ADA parking spot. We still meet the code for parking and actually exceed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you have about 5.5 minutes for rebuttal at the end if you want to keep it. Commissioner Condon?
Yes, Madam Chair. You mentioned circulation has been a problem on the site. Why is it that Brayton isn't used as a feeder street? I realize it's one way, but I mean, there are, I forget the name of the street just north, and it can loop back around to Lake Otis if necessary. Why is it that Brayton isn't used in conjunction with Lake Otis? It would certainly relieve sort of the traffic situation on Lake Otis if you split the two, if you split access to the parking lots into 2 different areas, rather than force everybody into the Lake Otis, along Lake Otis, and then filter into staff or visitor parking.
Thank you, Commissioner Condon. That's a good question. As you know, Brayton Drive is owned by the Department of Transportation, and you are correct. It is a one-way street that is associated with the freeway. I know of other types of frontage roads that could possibly be 2-way. In this situation, we have not asked the department if that could be a 2-way street. Do you have additional?
Good evening, Commissioners. I thank you for your time. My name is Don Porter. I'm the Senior Site Civil Design for this project. And I think I could give you a couple good answers to your questions if you so desire. So you're asking about Brayton. Brayton is a one-way road along the highway, and so that will never change into a 2-way scenario. So the frontage road there is Brayton Drive off of the highway, and so there is an off-ramp that comes, well, it's an on-ramp to the Seward Highway heading northbound. And so you peel off onto the frontage road, which is Brayton Drive, and then the driveway to ASD is a one-way drive out. There, having it coming in would not be very effective because everybody already comes in on Lake Otis, which is a much easier access for the process. It also eases the traffic flow because when they come in, it creates a circulation flow rather than any conflicting movements. I don't know if that... If we could put up a map, I could maybe...
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just not convinced that, if you've got an exit from the parking lot onto Brayton, why couldn't you have access from Brayton into the parking lot?
The driveway is a very tight driveway on the right, and also the frontage roads are intended to be a little more high speed. So having people slowing down and turning right into that very tight turn, coming all the way up, it's a very steep incline as well. I don't know if that's clear on the site plan, but it comes down from the school site, very steep, I don't know, 6% or something like that. So it's just not very usable to come in that way.
Couldn't be graded to be a little less severe?
Absolutely not. The site is so tight, the way it's been constructed over the years. It's been reconstructed and added on to 3 different times. So that has developed into a one-way exit for the site because it functions very well. I can attest to that, being a parent that actually has gone to that school. My kids have gone to that school now for, I'm working on round 2. And so I can also speak as somebody that has used the school for the last 10, 12 years. And that is the one-way exit is the best thing about that site in terms of circulation, just from my own personal perspective.
Okay. It just seems that Lake Otis is problematic in terms of, we've got plenty of pictures showing the backed up traffic, and do you think that your plan is going to alleviate that kind of congestion?
Absolutely, I do, and I'll tell you the reason why. We actually added over 500 feet of queuing length on the site, which equivalents to about 20 cars. So I think if I remember the numbers correctly. So by changing the way it circulates and changing the visitor parking lot to the northeast, what we've done is we've allowed an additional 500 feet of queuing lane. So the people that now typically would queue up on Lake Otis now actually enter the site and queue on site.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. McLaughlin, sounds like you had something to add to that.
Yeah, thanks for calling on me. So the driveway on Brayton Drive is steep, and in present day, I don't know if the state DOT would allow that driveway to be put in with this project if it wasn't there already, because of the angles and the topography and the speed and the road classification. I don't think anyone's asked the question, but I don't know if DOT would permit this driveway to be added if it wasn't there already.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to add that if you're driving down Brayton Drive, you essentially have to do a hairpin turn, literally a hairpin turn to the right, and then up a virtually a 20-foot grade to get to the site. That would be impossible in slick weather, and just would never happen. And I think it's probably why it never materialized as another site. My question has to do with you mentioned the parking that you want to change to angle. Which part was that? The staff parking lot?
The visitor parking lot, the proposed visitor parking lot.
Oh, proposed visitor and volunteer parking lot?
No, the other one, the parent drop-off and visitor parking lot.
Parent drop. Okay, that visitor parking lot. Thank you. I was
Yes.
just trying to. I was going around trying to figure out. So you're putting those on an angle, and okay. All right. And that will reduce it by 3 spaces. Is that right?
Correct. Right now, we are proposing 106 parking spots total, with 6 of that being ADA. So with the angled parking, we will lose 3 of the regular parking spots and 1 ADA, but still meeting Title 21 parking requirements.
So you have 103 and 5. Is that correct?
We have 106 total now, and then we would reduce it to 102 with the angled parking.
102 total, with 5 of those as ADA. Okay.
Correct.
I'm just trying to have a sense of how many we were ending up with, so I didn't have to sit here and try to add them all up around the site. Thank you. And I noticed that they're still planning on an area for the relocatables. Okay. I think that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually did want to add that the purpose of the angled parking is because that was always intended as one-way flow. And so the angled parking would be advantageous to the one-way flow. And also, I did want to point out that for landscaping, if any other questions come up, we do have SDG here with Luann Urfer.
Do we have additional questions for the petitioner? Commissioner Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had 2 questions. Well, one regarding the snow storage. Staff condition number 3, the snow storage area on the northeast corner of the site. has it as a snow storage area, and then also you have some, looks like quaking aspens planted there, and the condition was to resolve that, and I was just wondering what the status of that is.
Thank you. So we did talk to staff a little bit about this and trying to find a compromise in allowing for a small storage, temporary snow storage area, but also allowing for the survivability of the proposed landscaping there. And Luann can actually talk about the landscaping a little bit more, but our plan was to work with staff and ideally move the landscaping maybe to the side of that I guess you call the drive aisle island, and allowing for space for snow storage to be put onto a section of that without interfering with the landscaping, and then that would get removed after the short period that the school district temporarily stores their snow on site.
My name is Luann Arfer. Do I need to spell that?
Please.
It's U-R-F-E-R.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm the landscape architect on the project. Yeah, we have been, sorry, I always have that problem. We have been working with Civil to make sure that we are accommodating the amount of snow storage that's required on the site. Right now, we're looking at a need for about 2,400 square feet. They're just in the way that is currently drawn, and I'm sorry, we have a few things didn't show up on the plan, so I think you're probably struggling with the fact that our PDFs didn't print correctly. If you look at the canopies that show for the trees in that circle, there's actually a biocell, which is a rain garden, that would be outside of that canopy area. That's part of the snow storage. It covers about 1,500 square feet. So between that and the snow storage that's on the southwest corner of the site, and we have another ditch that also will accommodate snow storage, and a couple of other places on the site, we have at least 5,000 square feet, and we have potentially another 2,300 to 2,500 square feet. So we have enough snow storage on the site to accommodate what we're anticipating. Whether or not the planting needs to be adjusted, we will work with staff in order to make sure that everybody understands what we need for the site and how it will function.
Okay, I think the concern was when the snow gets pushed there, that it would damage the vegetation.
Right, and what you're not seeing is there's actually some boulders and stuff that they can't push into the trees.
Okay.
So, and there's some other things there too. There's a setback where that basically, if you're running a plow, you're not going to want to go over what's there. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. My second question is in regards to a drainage analysis. One of the departments, the private development department, asked for a drainage analysis with calculations, and curious if that had been completed.
So my name is Don Porter again. In general, because we're actually not increasing it more than 5% is the calculation that we have right now, that that is kind of the drainage analysis. And we haven't gotten the actual PD Civil comments on that. So if it is more than 5%, we will most certainly provide that calculation.
Okay, and then the current drainage is, it's looks like there's a ditch on the east border of the property. It's routed through culverts, and I guess it drops into Lake Otis Drive, and then it just enters the storm system from that point.
Well, there's a ditch system that then goes down to the DOT, and actually that very well could be a ditch system. I'm not quite certain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any additional questions for the petitioner? You still have your 5.5 minutes. Is there anything you want to add?
Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I just had a question for the petitioner. So, Ms. Lee, are you proposing a condition of approval that to resolve with the traffic engineer the providing angled parking in the visitor parking lot.
Correct. That is what we are proposing. If the commission approves our change in that parking lot reconfiguration to the angled parking, we would be amenable to that, to resolve that condition of approval with staff and with traffic engineering to review and to approve that.
Just to follow up, will that affect any of the handicap spaces?
I mentioned earlier that it would affect one handicap spot, but we would still be in compliance with what with Title 21 requirements for ADA parking stalls.
Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester?
So I'm just trying to get some clarity with staff and with that last question. Is that an additional condition that they resolve the angle parking? Because I don't really see it, or maybe I've missed it. Oh. I mean, is this something that's going to be added as a condition that they resolve the angle parking?
Yes, Mr. Winchester. If they want, so the plan that you have before you is what they're asking for approval for, and these are the conditions of approval saying, you know, the department's recommending approval subject to these conditions. But if the commission wishes to change the site plan, or the applicant, based on their client's needs, is asking for a change to the site plan right now, it'd be best to have a paper trail, have a condition of approval, resolve with the traffic engineer the changing of the visitor parking area to provide angled parking. Just to have the traffic engineer take a look at this, because we usually have the reviewing agencies okay this rather than just sort of okay it, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to make sure whoever makes the motion, we include that. Thank you.
Yeah.
For staff, I just have a question for you on the conditions. You request that we change, that we delete note number 3 from figure 6D, and I think you mean note 2.
Thank you. That is correct. I don't know how I got that wrong. So on page, I guess these aren't numbered, right? If you go to figure 6D, tree planting plan, sheet L 3.0, staff had recommended removing note 3, but the petitioner's correct. It's note 2. No plant substitutions are allowed without written approval of the landscape architect. We typically don't have that note. We just don't allow substitutions. It's not based on the, if there's a substitution, then in limited circumstances we'll work with the landscape architect and staff to do that. We want the plan to just say this is what the contractor's supposed to do, if that makes sense. And so if you could change that condition to read note 2 instead of 3. That would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? And you still have your 5.5 minutes, but you're good? Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve case 2014-0224? So we have a motion from Commissioner Miller and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Miller, would you please state your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In the case of 2014-0224, I move to approve subject to staff conditions 1 through 5 with a revision to condition 5 to delete note number 2 rather than note number 3. And with one new condition to resolve the angled parking in the visitor parking area with the traffic engineer before approval.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve case 2014-0224, subject to staff conditions 1, 3, 4, 5 is edited to say delete note 2 instead of note 3, and a new condition 6 for the angled parking of the visitor parking area to resolve with the traffic and with staff or the traffic engineer. Commissioner Miller, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I move to approve the project, finding that it is in conformance with Anchorage 2020 Policy 44, 49, and 78, as well as the Hillside District Plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I intend to support the motion. I feel I've done a great job of doing the best situation with what is a difficult site with difficult access, as Mr. Condon has actually brought up more than once, and it's absolutely true. Having both children and grandchildren, having gone to this school, I've had that opportunity as well as most to sit in line. But I think this is a great improvement. Those 20 queuing spaces are going to make a difference. I think that it's, it basically conforms to the other requirements of Title 21, and it's going to be a good change for this very old 1961 school. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional discussion? Do we have any objection? Okay. Motion passes. So this takes us now to our approval of art, for the 1% art for the Aurora Elementary School. There's not a report on this, right? We don't have anybody coming to do a report on the art or anything?
No, Madam Chair.
We're just going to review it and...
Just going to review it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, we don't do motions to approve. This is just review, and as long as we don't have any objections or notes...
It would be good to approve it so that we have it on the record
Okay,
that...
so we do, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, does anybody have any discussion on the art project that's sitting before us? Or any concerns or objections on it? Commissioner Sahel? Thank you. Do we have any additional discussion? Can we get a motion to approve?
Now's your chance.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Condon. We have a second from Commissioner Ream. Commissioner Condon, would you please state your motion?
Move to approve this art installation.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the art selection for the Aurora Elementary School. It was moved and seconded. Do we speak to the motion, do all the findings of fact?
It might be that, somebody may say that they don't see any issues concerning maintenance or safety.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Condon, would you like to speak to your motion?
What she said.
I don't see any problems with maintenance or safety concerning this art installation, and I think it will be a good addition to the school.
You get a gold star.
Commissioner Ream, did you want to speak to your second?
I was actually going to say that same thing. No.
Do we have any objection to the art project, or anybody want to say anything else? Okay. The arts project is approved. So that brings us to the last item of business for the evening, and it's the annual election of officers. So we're going to make Monica do it, since she's not here? Yeah. That's why you come to the meeting. Commissioner Sawhill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have just a couple of observations. I think boards that rotate the chair position are stronger boards. I think going through running a meeting is a good thing to do. I think you learn a lot doing that. You kind of puts Robert rules a little firmer in your brain and able to work. So, my opinion is boards that have chairman for life, so to speak, become a little stale. And so I think it's good to rotate it. What we've typically done is, get in line and get some practice and then step up to the big chair. And I still think that's a good practice. It's a little difficult without Ms. Sullivan here to accept the position, but we can always postpone for another month until we have more members. I remember seeing an email where Mr. Leonetti suggested he would like to serve in a position. I don't know if there's any other interest from board members, but I think in general it's good to share the duties, and so those are my thoughts.
Commissioner Miller?
Sorry, I had the question of whether the person actually needed to be here to be voted in. And I don't know what Ms. Sullivan, what her thoughts on taking over the chair is, but I know that Mr. Leonetti would be up for it. So if we can, I would suggest we postpone this until we have a full board and then go forward. Otherwise, it might be kind of hard to make a valid decision.
Well, I will say that Monica did say Commissioner Sullivan said she would do it when she stepped into the vice chair position. So, but Commissioner Ream, did you have?
If we do have a full board, if we do decide to have, we aren't doing that. Never mind. Can we have a second meeting, I guess, at the end of the month and everyone can come in here just for the elections? Was that too much?
Email?
Or over email? Do you have to actually be physically here? Oh.
I'd suggest that if you want to postpone, we'll just do it at the next meeting.
I think so.
Okay.
The two people that we want to vote for aren't here.
Commissioner Miller, did you have more you wanted?
No, I wasn't aware that Ms. Sullivan was the vice chair. I'm sorry, that she was going to, had been interested in moving up.
I think at the end of last meeting, she was saying maybe not yet was the only thing. So I think that would be I think she is, but I think you're going to be nervous until you do it. So I think.
Well, if she's nervous, then we just have to do it.
Yeah, then she's got to do it, right? Like, isn't that the way it's got to be? So, yeah. So, Commissioner Winchester, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I mean, I think it's a perfect time to elect Monica Sullivan chair and Leonetti as vice chair. I mean, they're not here. It's perfect timing, and they could just say, oh, okay. Because they both expressed interest, and I know that Monica did say she was willing to take over the chair, and she's been vice chair for a year, and, just kind of let her go from there.
And I think she's had to run one. I think I missed one, so I think she's had to run one. So.
Yep. It's
Plus, the power's going to my head. You guys got to get me out of the chair position. The power's going to my head.
If that's the case, I think we move forward tonight.
Oh, we got a motion. Well, that's to postpone. Oh, okay. Here.
Jeez.
Now we got a motion to accept from Commissioner Winchester and a second from Commissioner Miller. So, Commissioner Winchester.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that Monica Sullivan be elected the chairman of the Urban Design Commission for the next year, and that Mr. Leonetti be elected vice chair.
I think it's okay to combine them in one. I don't think we're going to have any objection, right? Nobody, this isn't going to be the most divisive thing of the meeting, is it? So it's seconded by Commissioner Miller. Do we have any objection? No? Okay. Who gets to send them the happy email? I know what I'm saying is I was just, there was motion by Commissioner Winchester, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Not my fault. I just run the meeting. Can we get a motion to adjourn unless does anybody have anything else they want to say?
I'm good.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Okay, come on. Second the motion.
I need a second. All right. We got a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Winchester, second from Commissioner Ream. No objections. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Not terrible, though.
Good meeting.
Second part was best.